stammered. "Don't give me back talk," the overseer snarled. Addie felt frantic, but she said nothing more. She picked up her bucket and ran back to the kitchen. When she got there, she saw her mother and baby Esther with Auntie Lula. Addie rushed to Mama and threw her arms around her. "Mama, they selling Sam and Papa. I tried to warn them, Mama. I tried," she cried, burying her face in her mother's shoulder. "I know you did," her mother said softly. "Auntie Lula told me." "Master Stevens and that man headed for the barn," Auntie Lula interrupted. "Maybe they got Sam and your papa there." Addie's head jerked up. Maybe there was one last chance. Maybe she could still warn Sam and Papa. Addie raced out the door and headed for the barn. "Addie!" Mama called after her. "Wait!" But Addie did not stop. She was not thinking, not praying, just running, running, running. When she came to the field, she saw a wagon. Sam was in it, bound and gagged, shackled hand and foot. Master Stevens, the man from the dining room, and two other white men as big as Papa were standing next to the wagon. "Sam!" Addie cried out when she reached the wagon. "Oh, please, Master Stevens," Addie begged. "Don't let them take Sam." "Get out of here, Addie," Master Stevens ordered. He had a whip in his hand. Addie stopped where she was. Then she heard a deeper voice. "Addie, go on now." It was her father's voice. But where was he? She looked down and then saw him lying on the ground, being chained by the overseer. Papa's face was covered with dirt, but it was calm. She ran to him, falling on the ground next to him. "Oh, Papa, no, no!" She threw her arms around him. He looked up at Addie. "Everything's gonna be all right, honey. You go on," he said. There were no tears on his face, but Addie knew he was crying inside. "Get back, girl!" Master Stevens barked. Addie heard his whip crack. She felt a lash of fire on her back, as if she had been burned, but still she held on to Papa. Master Stevens growled at her. "I told you to get. Now get before I whip you again." He reached for Addie and yanked her away from Papa. Addie fell backward into her mother's arms. Mama held Addie close, both of them crying. This time, even Mama couldn't keep the pain hidden inside. Chapter 3. A New Plan. It was late on Friday afternoon, nearly a week after Sam and Papa had been sold. Addie and the other children were warming tobacco plants. They were to work their way down the long rows, turning over every leaf to find the worms and kill them. It was a job Addie hated. She didn't even like looking at the worms. To kill them, she had to either squish them with her hands or squash them under her bare feet. Addie's mind was not on her work. All her thoughts were about Papa and Sam. "Hey, I got a riddle for you, Sam," she thought to herself. "What's heavy as a full pail of water, but still empty, empty, empty? Give up? It's my heart." She peeled the worms off some plants, but forgot to look under the leaves of others. When she came to the end of her second row, the overseer came along behind her to check her work. Addie was just starting the next row when she saw the overseer storming toward her. He had his whip in one hand. She turned to run, but he got to her before she could take a step. Addie raised up her hands thinking he was going to hit her, but he did not hit her. He dropped the whip and pulled Addie's hands down from her face, yanking her toward him. Holding her wrists in one of his large hands, he opened his other hand. Addie saw what he held: live worms. Worms that Addie had missed. The overseer forced open her mouth and stuffed the still twisting and wiggling worms inside. Addie began choking. "Eat them," the overseer growled. "Chew them up, every last one of them. If you don't, I'll get some more." Addie gagged as the worms' juicy bodies burst in her mouth. "That'll teach you to mind your work," the overseer snapped. He shoved her away. Addie crumpled to the ground as he turned to leave. It was dark when Mama came home to the cabin that night. She had baby Esther on her hip. There was no fire in the hearth. Addie lay curled up on her pallet. Her face, arms, and legs were streaked with dirt. Her feet were covered with mud. "Addie, you awake? Get up, honey," her mother said, lighting a candle and then placing Esther down on the pallet. But Addie did not even look up. "Addie," her mother said in a voice as soft and warm as the glow of the candle, "what happened to you?" She sat down on the edge of Addie's pallet and touched her head gently. Addie opened her eyes. They were red. As she told her mother about what the overseer had done to her, she started to cry. Mama lifted Addie's head onto her lap. "I hate them, Mama. I hate white people," Addie sobbed. "I don't want you to hate nobody," Mama said, stroking Addie's hair. After a while, she got up to get some water. When she came back, she began washing the tears and dirt from Addie's face. "Don't you hate them, Mama?" Addie asked. "No, I don't hate white people."
Where'd you find the stuff for it?
"Honey, if you fill your heart with hate, there ain't gonna be no room for love.
I don't know where to put that big piece.
Your brother and Papa
you
need
don't know where to
us
put
to
the
fill
big
our
piece?
hearts with
It
love
turned
for
on when I
them,
put it in here.
not hate
you
for
don't
white
know.
It
people."
got pressed on or something.
"But Mama, that overseer and
It
Master
goes goody.
Stevens,
When I
they
put it in the
hate
box,
us,"
when I put it in the
Addie
box,
said bitterly.
and turned
"Why
on.
white people hate us and treat us
Should I do
wrong?"
anything?
Addie, all white people don't hate colored people. Not all of them do us bad. Master Stevens was wrong to sell Sam and Papa and to whip you. But Addie, people
you
can
need
do
the
wrong for
password.
such a long
Should I-
time.
should I-
Well,
They don't
for
even
the
know it's
Wi-Fi.
wrong no more.
It should be on the cable box.
What's worse is when
you come
people
with me?
hurt each other and don't even care
Nah.
they hurt
Listen,
them.
I can't see things.
Like that overseer.